You would have seen a lot of your friends or family members, quite a few educated people, people you knew quite well use languages like chaddi or liberandu or pappu or feku on their WhatsApp groups or Facebook messages. Right. Unfortunately, if you use something like that, you're going to get into a lot of trouble in a college group discussion. In this video, we would look at how to go about arguing unlike what you argue on a Facebook or on a Twitter or an online forum to make sure that you don't get into any trouble in the group discussion and personal interview stage. Before I start, I would like to say that this is not meant to offend any particular party. At least this video is not. I have tried to use the topic at hand today for educational purposes only. I have also chosen this particular topic because it is a very contentious and very contemporary topic, and you can probably relate to these type of arguments which are presented to you online very easily. Now, if you like this video, please do share it with your friends who are preparing for CAT and other MBA entrance examinations. Please do subscribe to this channel if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching this on Facebook, please do like our page and follow it for getting regular notifications on our future videos as and when they come up. Let's begin. All the resources that I use to make this particular video are available in the description of this video. You can refer to them. All the articles, videos, Wikipedia pages are linked over there. In case you have any further queries, please do let us know. In case you think that we have probably not done justice to a particular uh, resource, again, let us know. We will try to rectify it in our future videos. Now, the basic idea which I've used for the argument is how to present an argument is basically from an article by Paul Graham. He basically tells you what are the 7 levels of arguments that you can present, from the least desirable to the most or the perfect argument. Now, in reality, even in the article, he does not mention what is a perfect argument. So I've tried to make sure that I've tried to relate it as closely as possible to other terms which you use on a day-to-day basis. We start from the least desirable to the most desirable in sort of like a pyramid form. Now, the least desirable is what I've already told you, which is basically trolling. As the name suggests, you basically don't focus on the argument, but you actually give names to somebody. So if you are probably against the CAA bill, you will probably be calling that person a feku or a bhakt or a gaumutra drinker. On the other hand, if you are probably on the person who is actually supporting this particular bill, you will be calling the other person a tukde gang member, a librandu, or a secular, and all those things. Needless to say, these things don't look good. Neither on TV debates, neither on Facebook, and will definitely not look good in a group discussion. Let us move up the value chain of argument. The next level that you can go up to is what is called gaslighting. Right, again, this is not a legitimate way of arguing, but it is a little effective. You basically are presenting half truths and sometimes even lies and peddling them as truths. Right? It is very commonly used. Even the American president is accused of doing this again and again. Now, while it is not as bad as trolling, if caught, you are going to be in the same amount of trouble as if you are going to troll. This is also called the Darvo effect. You basically are you're denying that you have done anything wrong. A is basically attacking the other person, and RVO basically stands for reversing the victim offender scenario. So instead of you, who is the perpetrator of the offense, you actually tell that the victim is actually the reason why the offense actually happened, and you basically put the blame on him. It is also called shaming. It is also called victim shaming, and this is basically done by a lot of people over there. Now, to give you an effect of how this will play out in this particular debate, if you are for the NRC and the CAA, the way it is over here, you will probably, if you were to use this particular tactic, you will basically be denying that this bill is actually discriminatory. You will basically be then saying that it is all the leftist unions or all the liberals who are actually going and attacking the perpetrating misinformation, and then you will basically be saying that it is actually those immigrants who are anyways attacking us, and that's why we should we are in danger. The Indians are in danger, not the other way around. Now, if you are on the other side, in which case you are basically opposing this particular act, and you have to now use this gaslighting measure, you will basically be denying that illegal immigration actually happens. Okay, you will then go ahead and say that all those things are basically fiction. This illegal immigration never happened, and anyways the government is against the minorities, and that's why it has brought the bill. So you're basically not telling the truth. In fact, most of the times you resort to lies. While it is not as abusive as trolling, it is as undesirable as probably trolling would be. The third level of argument is something which you basically see a lot. Okay, it derives from a propaganda tactic which is used by the communist regimes in the 1970s. It is called whataboutism or whataboutery. Right? It is also another reference that you can look for is to coke. Right? I'm not sure if I have pronounced the word correctly, but I've given it as a reference. You can basically go ahead and look at it. Now, as the name suggests, whataboutery or whataboutism is basically a tactic in which you start a sentence with the words "what about." What you basically do is you basically divert the particular you divert the attention from that particular topic to a completely different topic. You try to equalize those two, and then because you say that whatever happened in the first one, you will not because everything is right in the first one, the current tactic or the current actions that you're doing is also right. Now, this is how this was used during by the communists is something like this. So when all the communist regimes of the 1970s was basically doing all those heinous crimes against Afghanistan and Poland, all the propaganda material uh, basically used to say that, what about you killing the blacks? What about you guys supporting the apartheid? Right now, both of them are equally bad, but that doesn't mean that just because one is bad, you will support your own wrong deeds just by telling that because you did something wrong earlier in the past, I should also be allowed to get away with whatever wrong I am doing. Now, given that you know what aboutism actually is, it is pretty easy to find the examples. You can see it on a day-to-day basis. If you're for the NRC CAA, your arguments will go something like this. What about the independence when so many people lost their lives and so many people were persecuted, so many people lost their property, they are still being persecuted today? Or what about 1971 when during the war so many people lost their lives and so many people were persecuted? And if you are against the NRC CAA, you will basically say, what about the Ahmadiyas? What about the atheists? What about the, the Sri Lankan immigrants? What about the Rohingyas? This is basically whataboutism. It is a devastatingly effective tactic. It is not a correct tactic. And if you are found out, you might be questioned because you are basically equating two wrongs. Okay. But as a diversionary tactic, it is devastatingly effective, and a lot of times the argument is completely derailed. And you would see that in debates also. I mean, you will see a lot of TV anchors using and starting with a what about this, what about this, what about this. So, and both sides, whether it's the right or the left, are basically guilty of using this. So, this is one tactic. It is not desirable. It is not the correct way, but it can help you. I mean, as a cynical way of doing it, it can help you uh, get brownie points in a GD. I'm not defending whataboutism. Please don't think that I'm trying to say it is a good way of doing it. The reason why I'm saying whataboutism can be used or it is not completely wrong is there are certain cases in which whataboutism has been justified. There are a lot of critics of those who say that of the American regime who basically support whataboutism because that gives them a right to attack the American human rights, so to speak. I mean, while America claims to be the beacon of human rights across the world, it has not, its past records has not it's not been very great inside its own country, as well as what it has done in countries in Latin America as well as Middle East. You just have to go and look at the history of America, and you will see that there are a lot of double standards which America itself has used. So while it's not a great idea to use it as a last sort of measure, you can use whataboutery or whataboutism to get out of a tight spot. We have looked at the leftist part, which is the communist side of propaganda, which is whataboutery. If you look at the rightist or a right-wing sort of an argument or method for propaganda, is called the straw man argument. What you do is basically something like this. Instead of directly refuting the argument, what you do is you equate that to another argument which is either very exaggerated or completely dumbed down. You disprove that argument, and because you've disproved that argument, you say that the original argument is also wrong. Now, where was this first used? One of the simplest example that you will get if you search for the strawman argument is what Richard Nixon did. Not during the impeachment trial, but in 1950s, it is called the Checkers speech. In 1952, he was alleged during an election, he was alleged to have used funds wrongly, or he unaccounted funds or misappropriated those funds. Instead of replying to whether he got those funds or whether taking those funds was right or wrong, he gave what is called the Checkers speech. So in this speech, he said that I have been gifted a Cocker Spaniel, right? So this Cocker Spaniel is loved by my 6-year-old girl, just like every other 6-year-old girl will like Cocker Spaniel. And she has even named the Cocker Spaniel Checkers. Irrespective of whether it's right or wrong, I am keeping the Cocker Spaniel. So by saying that you did not, nobody criticized him for keeping the Cocker Spaniel, even though it was a gift, just because you did not criticize me for keeping the Cocker Spaniel, you cannot criticize me for taking that money also. He equated that. As I said, it is a wrong equivalence, a false equivalence. But because you have disproved that equivalence, your original argument that I have taken money should also be wrong by the same logic. Now, if I were to give examples in this particular discussion on what a strawman argument would be like, if you are against the NRC, right, you would say that NRC will create a Nazi India, and we know what happened in Nazi India, in Nazi Germany, and because we don't want that to happen, you cannot have NRC or CAA in India. If you are for the NRC or CAA, you would say that look at what happened in all the Muslim majority countries. What is the state of minorities over there? We don't want that to happen. That's why we have brought in the NRC CAA. You're basically extrapolating. You are either dumbing down the argument too much or exaggerating the particular case, which might not happen. That's one of the problems when you're defending against the strawman argument. You don't know whether that is going to happen or not. You cannot very easily disprove that that is false, right? And the person might have multiple ways of doing it, but it's not a logical answer because you're not refuting the original argument. You're equating it to something which is either too simplified or too exaggerated, which makes it easier for you to attack that argument and therefore refute the original argument as well. Now, obviously, the most desirable way of arguing is refuting the original idea and using facts to either support or oppose the original idea. Now, in order to make sure that I don't make any mistake, I will give you 2 examples of what eminent lawyers have actually argued about whether when they are pro CAA and when they are against CAA. I'll read it out. The link is available in the description of this video. So for pro CAA, these are notes from a speech by Harish Salve, interview by Harish Salve. He basically says that NRC CAA contains reasonable differentiation, right? It's a policy matter. While you can expand the scope of this policy matter, The Supreme Court of India cannot say that the government should take up only this particular policy. The Supreme Court will basically decide whether the policy has been done with reasonable differentiation. And because there is a valid, reasonable differentiation, this is completely constitutional and there is nothing wrong with this particular act. Now, for the against part, I have used references from a speech and a couple of interviews given by Faizan Mustafa. He is basically the Vice Chancellor of NALSA, right? He's basically said that there are three tests of reasonability which the NRC CAA fails, right? The link basically gives you the three differentiation. He also says that once a refugee enters into India and he's granted the refugee status, he should be treated as a citizen. He has all the rights of as a citizen has, and because you cannot differentiate between the citizens on the basis of religion, you cannot differentiate between refugees also on the basis of religion. So that was his argument. Now, obviously, as we have seen, neither trolling is going to happen, neither is somebody going to give you such a valid argument. However, you can have somewhere in between over here, but make sure that you understand what you're doing and what are the problems that you might get into. Now, all the tactics which we told you, which are between the most desirable and completely undesirable, should be used very, very carefully. You should also understand that this is a weapon which I'm using. It might help me in some cases, but it can also lead me to some amount of trouble in the interview later on when I'm cross-questioned over there. And at the very end, I would like to say that as a word of advice, irrespective of whatever be the topic, no matter how strongly you feel for or against that particular topic, remember one thing. You are going there for a discussion, not a debate which is happening on a TV show, right? You do not have to win the debate. Your aim is to basically make sure that you can give valid points. You have an opinion, not too extreme, right? Think of it like what Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, said. He basically opposed the CA, but at the same time also said like the government has the right to do all those things, make its own laws, etc. So he's given a balanced measure because he knows that irrespective of whether the act or the bill is deemed constitutional or not, he has to do business. Similarly, irrespective of whether whatever topic, whether you feel whether it's right or wrong, you're not going to make any particular change in that particular discussion, right? You're not going to win anything out of it. That's not even being recorded or telecast. You're not going to get any Twitter followers or YouTube subscribers over there. All you can do is basically make sure that not get into trouble. Avoid, that's why one of the reasons why most celebrities or influencers avoid taking any political questions, because if you want to give an opinion, you might actually be bashed for it. Your aim is very simple. Make your points, clear the interview, get on with your life. That completes this particular video. Do let us know how you felt about it. Leave your comments. In case you're watching this on YouTube, do subscribe to our channel. Share this with your friends who are preparing for CAT and other entrance examinations. If you are watching this on Facebook, please do like our page and follow us. Till we meet again the next time. Goodbye and all the best.